This is WCM's Park Update, a weekly show covering the outdoor hospitality industry, hosted by Ben Quiggle and Mike Gast. During each episode, you'll hear from special guests and campground experts on topics that will help your park flourish. WCM's Park Update is a production of Woodall's Campground Magazine.
Hi, I'm Ben Quiggle, editor of Woodall's Campground Magazine, and this is another episode of WCM's Park Update, sponsored by Book Outdoors. And of course, my esteemed colleague Mike Gast is back. He's still in Nebraska. He's loving it. So, former vice president of communications at Campgrounds of America. And would you rather be in Montana or Nebraska?
Oh, I think it's a draw. I mean,
It's a
I
draw?
lived in eastern Montana, which is not
Okay.
really. It's more like western North Dakota.
Okay. All right. And our guest today is somebody I'm familiar with. He's my boss, Rick Kessler, the publisher and executive editor of Woodall's Campground Magazine and RV Business. And I guess, Rick, you've been doing this for a long time, covering the industry. Just explain, I know you work more on the RV business side. Just explain a little bit about RV Business, what you guys do over there.
Sure. Well, like Woodall's Campground Magazine, we're a trade media, trade magazine that covers the RV industry, closely related, of course, to the camping industry. We publish a print magazine every other month, so 6 issues per year. We've added a couple of special issues. One is dedicated to the aftermarket parts and accessories, and the 8th issue, or the second specialty issue, is brand new this year. It's called the Dealer Guide, and that will come out later on in October. And that's dedicated to basically helping dealers improve their operations. In addition to the magazine, we also have, of course, a website, rvbusiness.com. And like Woodall's, we also put out a newsletter or news feed every day, 5 days a week. The other things that RV Business does is we host a couple of events. One is the RV Industry Power Breakfast that takes place every May in Elkhart, Indiana. Pretty big event. It's gotten to be over 1,000 people now for several years in a row. And we bring in all kinds of speakers, including sitting governors. So it's gotten some stature. And then the second event that we do is every fall, and that's at the RV Dealers Association convention in Las Vegas, and that is the RV Business Top 50 RV Dealer Awards. And that's been going on for over a dozen years now, and that's where we really seek to recognize those RV dealerships that do things the right way. More than just sales, it's more about customer service. We're all about trying to elevate that customer experience in both industries. So we are happy to recognize those dealerships that are trying to do exactly that for the RV industry.
And then
So
you're
Rick,
also
talk a little bit about the trends in the industry right now. I know. Post-COVID, it was explosions, and now it seems like it's had a little bit of a rough year, and it's starting to come back. Is that right?
Starting to come back is probably the best way to put it. It depends on who you talk to. We've hit rock bottom, but how long will we be at rock bottom? That's been one way of saying it. Another way is we haven't hit rock bottom yet because it's an election year. So that's the wild card. If you listen to the data people, the elections has really nothing to do with what the final numbers end up being. But I mean, we're all looking at these political ads coming down. How can you not be swayed by either the sky is falling or it's never been better?
what is, I read a lot of the releases from RVIA, and, the president and CEO, Craig Kirby's always, pretty positive. I guess, what are some of the things that RVIA says is the reason why they feel like they're going to grow this year, I guess?
Probably the signs that they are pointing to, number one, they always are pointing to, and rightfully so, the long-term health of the industry is still very, very good. People have embraced the outdoor recreation lifestyle. RVs are a good way to have a base camp, if you will, to enjoy those pursuits. The trajectory of the wholesale shipments and retail sales still is on the rise. If you look at the 40, 50-year history of them compiling that data, it's been a steady incline. The COVID years was a abnormal bump in production, abnormal bump in sales. So it's come back down to, it's corrected itself. It's come back down to what they're saying would be the normal trajectory of minus those COVID years.
Yeah. I mean, I guess, are they concerned at all? Because I know, Toby O'Rourke from Campgrounds of America, and I know RVIA did a lot of stuff on the cycle of ownership, I guess. I forget what they call it, like the consumer cycle this last year. And are they worried about these people who may have come in during COVID, exiting the lifestyle and trying to get rid of their units and not coming back? Or do they feel like they've captured a majority of them and they're going to stick around?
I think everybody is concerned that COVID bump is going to be gone, that the people are going to exit the lifestyle. Quite frankly, it would be burying our heads in the sand if we weren't concerned about those people leaving the lifestyle. And, Toby had an excellent report on people doing exactly that. We're going to lose them if we don't take care of them, was her message. And she's right. And how do we take care of them? Well, it's pretty simple. Give them a good quality product, give them a good quality experience, and they're going to come back. I mean, I've been RVing since 2007, and my extended family well before that. I'm hooked. I do it as much as I possibly can up here in Michigan, which now isn't very often.
So, Rick, you mentioned the dealers. What's the inventory? What do the lots look like right now? I'm hearing that there's a lot of inventory sitting out there, and they're a little bit concerned about the used lots getting in their way.
That's a good point, and you're right. Again, it depends on who you talk to. The dealer inventory, the more savvy dealers really took a hit on their profit margin to clear out their aged inventory, which is primarily those 2022 and even 2023 model year RVs that they had. They bought those at the height of the pandemic rush, so they couldn't have enough inventory on their lots at that time. So some of them overpurchased, and they were sitting on their lots. They cleared them out. The ones that didn't take a hit on their margin are probably still sitting on some of that aged inventory, and there's going to be a reckoning because they're paying higher floor plan interest rates on that inventory. Other dealerships did take that loss. They got rid of those model years, so they aren't sitting on a lot of inventory. Very, very generally speaking, and this is really quite a general statement, most people are just fine with their inventory. They're going to ride through the winter as best they can through the slow sales season, at least the northern half of North America. Right now, everybody is paying attention to these late winter, early spring RV shows. We just had several big ones, and most especially the Florida RV Super Show in Tampa. Again, it depends on who you talk to. I talked to several dealers who had a great show. They sold a lot of units. They matched last year's sales, and they're happy about that. But I also talked to a few people who didn't want to go on the record, who weren't very happy with their sales. It's going to be a real interesting first couple of quarters to this year. Most people that we talk to are telling us it's going to be more or less a flat year, and they'll be happy with that. If there's going to be any kind of a pickup, it's not going to be until maybe later in the third quarter or even fourth quarter, if not next year.
What are the manufacturers doing, Rick, to deal with the quality concerns that came out of the COVID years?
It's going to depend on the manufacturers. Several manufacturers do a good job, as you well know. They do their own inspection at the end of each production line. Some of them take them out for every unit, even take them out on the Elkhart roads, which are nice and full of potholes. So give them a real good run through. Other ones are well, I mean, it's no secret they don't do a good job. And I know when people ask me what brand should I get, I always say, generally speaking, you're going to get what you pay for. But if you really want to know what brand is better than another, go on a factory tour and see for yourself.
Yeah. Is there any concern with dealers that people will trend towards used units and maybe not look at as many new units over the next several years, since it seems like there might be a lot of good, high quality used units hitting the market?
I think there should be concern if there isn't. I am hearing, especially from RV Trader, that the private party listings have gone up considerably. Mm-hmm. I know that some dealers are talking about people coming in with trade-ins from those COVID years. Part of that problem is those people bought those units at pretty much top dollar, some even at full MSRP, if not even more than the MSRP. That means a lot of those people are underwater with what they still owe. Just spoke with Matt Vuring from Vuring's RV just yesterday, and he's saying the ones that are coming in with trade-ins before the COVID years, they're fine. They're able to trade in or trade up for whatever it is they're going to be buying. But he also had a pretty interesting take on that. He said one of the things that's happened is the 2024 models new are less price than what people paid for their 2022 or 23 models, which was a COVID boom. So they're able to trade in even if they owe, because they're getting the benefit of the lesser cost of those brand new units.
What I mean, yeah, that's surprising what's going on in that market, I guess. You know, Rick, you and I, you know, as journalists, and I know Mike probably has the same experience. We hear a lot of rumors, and one of the rumors I was hearing, and you know how I always love to talk about rumors. So one of the rumors I was hearing was that some dealerships weren't even taking trade-ins right now. Is that happening, or have you heard stuff about that? Or
well, I haven't heard that, and to be honest, a dealer's going to take a trade-in if it makes business sense for him to take a trade-in. If he doesn't take a trade-in, there could be any number of reasons. It could be just a really poor unit that they can't possibly resale or even auction off. But they're going to make that deal if they're going to make money off of it. So it'd be surprising if they don't take a trade-in.
Okay. Yeah. Well, you hear a lot of stuff. So a lot of crazy things are going on in the RV and camping worlds right now, and there's a lot of different information out there. So,
that's true.
Yeah. So, well, I guess we'll pause right now for a minute just to recognize our sponsor, Book Outdoors, and then we will be back to talk with Rick more.
Today's show is sponsored by Book Outdoors. If you want increased visibility and higher occupancy, your campground needs to be listed where today's guests are searching and booking. Book Outdoors is the most sought-after destination for booking outdoor accommodations. Listing your property on Book Outdoors is free and easy, and Book Outdoors seamlessly integrates with several popular reservation systems. Register now and get a $25 gift card when your listing is published, plus another $100 to celebrate your first booking. Visit partners.bookoutdoors.com for more information and to get started.
Hi, welcome back to WCM's Park Update, and we are talking with Rick Kessler, Executive Editor of RV Business Magazine and publisher of both Woodall's and RV Business Magazine. And we were just talking about all things RV industry related. I guess what are some things that are exciting you, Rick, about what people are doing, what manufacturers are doing with RVs? I guess, have you noticed, you see a lot of units, have you noticed anything that you were like, wow, that's really cool, I guess, here recently?
Yeah. There's some pretty good trends going on. First and foremost would be this off-road / off-grid trend that we're seeing. Right now, it's mostly on smaller units, single axle towable units, travel trailers. I mean, it's the overland niche that it's making its way into the mainstream RV community. I don't know. I just kind of maybe I'm drinking the Go RVing Kool-Aid too much, but there's something about just getting in one of those things and going off way out into the desert or wherever, Red Rocks or Grand Canyons, somewhere out west that's really cool, as opposed to the Midwest where there's nothing really cool. No.
Amen.
Hey, that's a dig at Michigan. Michigan has some really neat areas up north. So, yeah. Yeah,
So
we
when
don't
I
want
got into business, 20 some years ago, there was hardly anything that was 40 feet long. And then the slide outs came and they went crazy. And now they're shooting them out the back ends. And all of a sudden you've got 44-foot and beyond RVs. Where does it end? I mean, as a campground owner, I'd have to take care of that. I've got to have all the utilities in the right spot. I've got to have room for that on my park. And you get criticized for that when you've got an older park that
Yeah.
all of a sudden seems tight because people are shooting five or six slide outs every direction.
Mike, there was a unit at the Florida RV Super Show by Spacecraft Manufacturing, extremely custom, extremely high end, and also 55 feet long. Yeah, it looks great. I don't know where you're going to take it, right? No, you're right. It's not fair to the campground owners. It's hard enough to maintain what you have, let alone try and accommodate some of these big rigs. That's why my personal one, I have a 30-foot one. I want to be able to get into all of those spots. What's the answer? Just grin and bear it. Make the improvements as you can. I would say this, though. I would say one of the other trends we're seeing is a return to a new entry-level product. A lot of the OEMs have come out with a brand new brand or model that they're calling entry-level. And obviously, I mean, what they're trying to do is hit a cheaper price point for people. And the best way they can do that is just make them smaller. Take stuff out if they can, but make them smaller.
And that's a trend from those manufacturers to go back to stick and tin, where they've really never had a stick and tin before, right?
That's true. Winnebago would be the prime example of that. They just came out with the Winnebago Access, which is a stick and tin product. And stick and tin is, for those that don't know, that's an industry term for those travel trailers made with wood studs, as well as that corrugated exterior cladding.
Yeah. I think one of the neat units, and I know it was the RV of the year this last year, and I actually got to see a couple of them up at as they were preparing for the Detroit Auto Show like a week or so ago. That Forest River Ibex and the No Boundaries RV suite, it has like a fixed porch on the back, I guess, right? Or does that thing fold up? It kind of looks like a cabin or park model, but it's an RV, I guess.
It is an RV. It's classified as a travel trailer. It looks like a park model RV. That porch you're referring to, it's a fixed porch. It's 4 feet off the back end.
Yeah.
There's a sliding glass door to get into the unit from that area, from that back end. Honestly, it looks to me like it's a caboose on a train.
I got the picture up from the magazine, the article from the magazine, and hopefully people can see what it looks like in the background there. But yeah, it's kind of interesting. But go ahead, Rick. Sorry.
Well, some of the other features, just to run them down real quick, it's got a really unique roof to it. Most of the RV roofs that you see, they might have a crown to them, or they simply might be a flat roof. This particular one, it's a flat roof, but it's pitched on an angle, and it's pitched in such a way where it's going to run off the back corner away from your campsite side. So it's kind of nice. The other things that they've put into that one, and this is among the many reasons why we named it our RV of the year, is it's got a voice activated control system. So it's as close to a smart RV as you're going to get nowadays. Kind of like Alexa at home or Siri on your phone. You you prompt it and then tell it what to do, and then it'll do it. It's pretty nice.
Yeah.
So Rick, are we over the term? Are we over the period where there's going to be so much consolidation in the RV manufacturing business?
Oh, I wish I knew that answer, Mike. Probably not. I think the quote unquote low hanging fruit has already been acquired. There still are some other independent manufacturers out there doing very well for themselves. Are they going to be acquired? I guess if the money was right, yeah, right. Somebody throws monopoly money at you, you can't help but listen to them. If there's going to be any more acquisitions on the OEM side, it's probably going to be more vertical integration. So they might be acquiring suppliers versus other OEMs, the smaller OEMs.
Mm.
On the dealership side, there's definitely going to be some more acquisitions. We keep hearing about these rumblings all the time. We have to stay quiet about it because they swear us to secrecy until they're ready to go public with it. There's going to be some acquisitions. There's also going to be unfortunately, some dealerships that probably won't make it through the winter. And that has to do with deal with what we talked about earlier, where they're just simply have too much inventory and their costs are mounting because of it.
How does the RV, we went through the recession and the downturn there, and they were talking about inventory control issues. Then we went through COVID, and obviously people were waiting year out for orders. How do dealers manage those inventories? Are they getting better about managing their inventories and keeping what they have on the lot, or is it just really hard for them to manage those inventories, I guess, to some degree?
I think they're getting better at managing those inventories, and a lot of that has to do with many of them are just becoming a little bit more savvy using some dealer management systems, basically data. They're better at understanding and reporting on their data and making decisions based on what's selling and how often it's selling versus just a gut feeling. Sometimes that you'd see some, especially at the Elkhart RV open house, teams of people from dealerships would be walking around rather than just the husband and wife, mom and pop operation.
Do you think, kind of shifting gears a little bit, but I guess on the repair end, that's one of the complaints we hear from campers a little bit is, we can't find a good place to repair our RV, or we got to go all the way over here. I guess, is the industry getting better with that? I know they have the RV Technical Institute. They've got a lot of different trainings where they're training more technicians than probably ever before, I guess.
That's true. They are. I think most people would say it's great, but we need more. We need more. We need more. We need more. And Kurt Hamler over at the RV Tech Institute, he's well aware of that. They are. It seems like every year now, and they've been around for a good 4 or 5 years. It seems like every year they have a new record number of technicians that they've trained and certified, which is to say, that's a great accomplishment, but you're starting here, so it's not that difficult to continue to break your own record. And I don't mean that to be cynical. That's just the way it is.
Yeah.
What interesting with that, and this might be a smaller trend, but I think we're seeing a rise in mobile RV technicians, the ones that aren't affiliated with a dealership. I can remember going out to a campground last year while camping, and one of those mobile techs came out and he pretty much replaced somebody's roof on one of the unit next to us. Not too bad if you can get it.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me of what the semi truck drivers have, where they pull up and they can do a lot with those semis just right on the side of the highway, I guess. So
That's true.
I guess looking forward in the RV industry, I think you mentioned the off-road camping and stuff. I guess, are we going to see this huge EV wave as well? Is that kind of slowed down to some degree, or is that still on the horizon?
I think it's on the horizon, but it's getting further and further back on the horizon. It a lot of ways the RV industry trails the automotive industry in just about every respect possible. EV is no exception. Whereas the automotive industry has come out with their EVs on a production level volume. We're now hearing that those OEMs, Ford and GM, are scaling back those operations because it's not profitable for them. And I think the RV manufacturers would tell you the same thing. They're going to continue to work on them on the side in case it does make financial sense to really pull the trigger and start running those down a production line. But for right now, it's really just R&D for them.
So Rick, we've got manufacturers, we've got dealers, we've got campground owners. Are those three groups communicating and working together enough in your opinion?
Good question. I would say out of what you just said, the RV industry needs to do a better job of communicating with the campground industry and vice versa. There's a lot of benefits if they were to start working together. Everybody bemoans the lack of campsites. Well, I mean, campground industry is doing its part to add those campsites, whether it's new builds or expansions, right?
Yeah.
If the RV industry were to communicate with those new builds, then we wouldn't have those tight roads and lack of large enough campsites that we've talked about earlier. And it goes the other way too. If the campground owners were able to, and the campground people were able to communicate with the OEMs and the suppliers, there could be some better development on the RV side that helps the campground owners better accommodate them. Goes both ways.
So, just get out your crystal ball here as we wrap up the show, I guess. Do you expect the RV industry to continue to increase their shipments in the next year or two? Maybe get out of this hole to some degree and continue working in building new RVs, I guess?
Well, my crystal ball's not very good, never has been. If it was, I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing now. The smart people that we talk to say, yes, the shipments are going to go up. RVIA is projecting that and I'm going to get my notes because I wrote these down. We just finished wholesale shipments 2023 with 313,000 RVs were sent from OEMs to dealers. RVIA is projecting that number at the end of this year will be 350,000. That's a pretty good increase. I'm skeptical that we'll hit 350. I hope that we do. That means that the industry is doing well. That's only one part of the equation. That's wholesale shipments. The other part of the equation is retail sales. And here's some numbers for there. We don't have December's retail sales figures just yet, but if it follows the same trend where it's roughly 15 to 20% down year over year, then by the end of 2023, our retail sales should be right around 375,000, maybe a little bit more, depending on how December shook out. Speak well, right? Not right good.
Yeah. Something like that.
So what does that mean? That means we have about 60,000 more units were sold than were built. So that's burning through the inventory that you were talking about earlier, Mike.
Yeah. I guess we'll have to see if that translates into new, like we mentioned earlier, whether people are buying new or used units. It's going to be interesting because I know just from a personal perspective, my wife and I have been looking at units and, we're not looking at new, we're looking at used because there's units out there that are only a couple years old. So, we're not picky. I know there are people out there that just want new and they're going to buy a new unit every couple of years. I'm not that person. But
how many units have 4 bunkhouses, Ben?
Yeah. I need a big unit. So about how many people have the same thought as me? How many people are gonna they want the newest thing? It's going to be interesting. So to find out.
Rick, why should a campground owner care about what's going on in the RV industry?
Well, remember at one point several years ago, there was talk of going, most travel trailers and whatnot are 30 amps. And then we started getting into the 50 amps because there's 2 ACs on it. There was even talk of going to 100 amps just because they were packing all this into it. That's not the case so much anymore. I haven't heard any 100 amp units being under development. But why would it? If I'm a campground owner, I want to know that, because if you're going to start throwing 100 amp units at me or 50 amp units at me, then I'm going to have to upgrade what I've got to accommodate that. That's a big deal. I mean, that's an expensive big deal.
Is there any, I guess back to the communication side, I mean, do the RV dealers care that the campgrounds really couldn't handle 100 amp at this point? There's a lot of campgrounds out there that a 100 amp RV pulls up, that would be a killer. So, I mean, at some point, the RV industry has to acknowledge that the camper's not going to have a great experience if we pump out a unit like that. There just seems the communication doesn't seem to be there, I guess. So
you're right. This goes back to business 101. If I'm the manufacturer, my first customer is the dealer.
Yeah.
So if I can get a dealer to buy it, I'm good. That's a very short-sighted way of thinking about things, because it doesn't take the end consumer's experience into being.
Yeah.
The dealer, they're the ones that have to sell to that customer. So it's on them to only buy the right types of units from the manufacturers. If they think they can sell a 100 amp unit, and I don't want us to get lost in the 100 amp unit because it's really not a thing. But if they're going to buy the 45 foot 50 amp, whatever fifth wheel motorhome from an OEM, they better be able to turn around and sell that for whatever margin they're trying to make. Otherwise, they're going to sit on it and they're going to pay the interest rates to their lenders because it's going unsold. That's where it goes back to what you had mentioned, Ben, about are they getting better about making those decisions on what to put on their lot and whatnot.
Yeah. Well, we ran out of time. We're actually over time. So, Rick, I have a feeling we could talk for a while longer. But it's been great having you on the show. Obviously talking about the RV industry and everything that's going on there. So thank you for coming on today.
Thank you very much, guys. It was a pleasure.
Yeah.
Thanks, Rick.
And maybe we'll have to bring you back here down the road, maybe next fall or something. We could talk about what's going on. So, but thanks again. And people can learn more about RV Business at rvbusiness.com. And thanks everyone for watching. And we will see you again next week.
Thank you for listening to WCM's Park Update, a production of Woodall's Campground Magazine. Join us for a new show each Tuesday at 3 p.m. Eastern on Facebook, YouTube, and wherever you listen to podcasts. Follow us on Facebook and LinkedIn for daily news and updates, and subscribe to our news feed on our website at woodallscm.com. Show hosts are Ben Quiggle and Mike Gast. Executive producers Rick Kessler and Alex Burkett. Copyright 2022, G&G Media Group.